formally start our today's topic, let's have a quick review of the. So we talked about that exceptions are runtime errors, you remember? And here we just talked about some other types of errors as well. Just a review. Yes, I'm just recording. So just a review of the last class topic, as I said. So can anyone tell me what were the other types of errors that we discussed? Maybe in chat window. Other than these runtime errors, there were some other type of errors. I'm talking to those who are new to programming, of course. Yes, we talked about there is something called a logical error, and there was other as well. Exception is the runtime by itself. We are not talking about exception. The other one is logical, and there is one more remaining, very important one, the syntax one, the syntax error. And the syntax error is something that, if I ask you, of course, that will never allow you to compile your program, right? Your compile will not be your program will not be compiled unless you remove all the syntax errors. You remember I talked about that syntax error can also be called as grammar errors or grammatical errors, right? It's same like in English. What we do is that we have to follow the rules of English. If you want to speak English or other language, any other language, you need to follow the grammar of that language. So if you're not following the grammar, that means in programming, you say that you are syntactically wrong. Your program is syntactically wrong. And once syntactically this is wrong, you will never be able to execute that. Why? Because it will never compile, it will never execute, it will never compile that program. Then we talked about the other types of error, logical, as some of the people have said, logical errors. Now, what were the logical errors? These are the errors that do not, do not stop the execution of our program. Usually, sometimes a logical error might also do that, but usually logical error does not stop the execution of, like, again, execution will be there, syntax, the compiler will say, okay, the program is all good, I can run that. Now you are not getting the required output. That is your problem, that you have done some of the logical problems, you have done some of the logical error, and program is not allowing you to execute those lines of lines are executing, but you are not getting the required output. So you need to work on your logic and see. The third type was the runtime errors that we saw in our last class, and we talked about that there are these are the errors that we see that usually do what, that might or might not occur at the runtime. So they are called runtime errors, and we saw that sometimes maybe for the life a program does not go into that error, or maybe for the first execution the program goes into that error. So that was something that we have talked about. And if I go and open up our last class's file that we were working on, so we'll see that the programs that you're working on. So I'm just opening that up, and let's see what happens there. Okay, so what I need is that. All right. So yes, so these are the three types of errors, and we saw that exception is something that we need to handle. All those areas which are prone to become errors, which can become an error in the future, we just do what, we just try to make them the error free, or we want to catch their problems so that our program gracefully exits by after informing the user that what has gone wrong, why you have been taken out of the program, and what was the problem that was there. Right, so this was our last week's code. I think I have shared this code with you people as well, and we were just talking about few important things over here. Right, so uh, we'll just see all of these things together, and then we'll just try to complete. So for today, as I said, I will just fill that up. I've just not filled that up because I was just making all those slides complete. So we'll talk about inner exceptions that we left last class in our last week, and today we also will talk about some of the other aspects of object-oriented programming. We'll talk about inheritance. We'll talk about some of the interesting things that have to be followed, and we'll just see that what are the different options that we can do in our object-oriented world. So we'll just talk about that, and I'll fill that up when we'll be just. So okay, we were talking about the inner exceptions that day, and again, of course, you remember that we were just stopped or stuck at one point. So the problem, of course, you would have also find out the problem was, so this was our try block. which was prone to be error, and we said that it can produce an error of type what? Maybe a number is not entered in the right way, format exception. Maybe the second number entered was 0, like divide by 0 exception, or anything like that. So it was prone to any exception. But we saw in our program last week that if this try is successful, we like again, if it is not successful, we used to go into the exception, like again catch, and we catch the exception, and we were defining a file path. We defined a file path by using this verbatim literal, right? And then we defined a stream writer. You remember we have talked about stream reader. We talked about in our last week. So then we talked about stream writer. So we want to open a file to write something into it, right? And then what we do is that this is stream writer object. We'll use the write and writeline methods to just write on that. So first of all, we are taking the e.get type. E is what? Exception. Get the type of that name, and then this a new line in the file, and then write e.message. So you write the name of the exception, and also you write the name of the the message that has been produced by this exception, and then you can just close that file or close that stream reader and stream writer, and then you can console.writeline problem occurred try again. So this was a program that we saw in our last class, and if I just come over here and if I want to just quickly have a look at it. All right, so so what I will do is that I'll just quickly copy that from the previous one so that we don't have to type it again and again. Okay, quickly come up my program, the Rust program. Users, and yes, now I will be able to find that. Right. Okay, so what I'll be doing is that I will just try to bring the code, which is not here. Okay, no problems, no issues. We'll just talk about this one. Right, so let's take this one and work on that. Right. Okay, so this was our previous one. So let's quickly just try that down because I'm unable to find that one anyhow. Right, so right line, enter first number, and we'll just quickly do that. Okay. Right, and the first number, and then you'll see that convert dot to int 32 and console dot read line. Okay, so let's quickly do that, and this is our first, and this then we'll have our second number, and right. And let's do the result. And console.writeline. The result is this. All right. Right. So let's see that what we are doing is that we are just catching the normal exception. So you people, I hope you people remember that what was the difference between a normal exception, of course, and the subclasses of exception. So when we use this exception, like the most generic form of the class, what happens is that it will catch any type of exception that might or might not occur. Like again, so if an exception occurs, of course it will just go and catch that exception for us, and that will be for us, the main thing for us. Now if you talk about that, we said that whenever an exception has occurred, what you do is that you just come over here, string, and we were using the file path equal to, and I have got a file at c:\files /file1.txt. Right, and then, so again, from the last week's classes, I hope now you people have a good idea of at least the basic file reading and writing. How can we do that? So we are just providing a file path over here, so just opening up a stream writer, and then by using this stream writer, what we are doing is that we will just use its methods to write on the file, right? So, and this is something, and you remember that we said that we can do the get type of the exception, and then what we can do is that we can take the name of the exception. Whatever is the name of the exception, we want to take that, and we want to just print a new line over here, and then we want to print dot write and e.message. And always remember that we have to close that one. You remember that we have talked about, if you are not closing it, of course you might run into a problem. So now you see problem, right? Okay, so now let's see if something else is not hindering us. It's a print array function, or maybe, okay, so I just started the other things in that class. So now if you see in our main program, what we are doing is that we are just basically trying to run this exception, and we are saying that enter. So let's run that. Maybe if nothing else is hindering, we'll just quickly look at it, and then we'll see that how we'll go about that typical thing. All right, so the first number, I say a legal number. Again, let's check it first legally, legally if it runs fast. Yes, it's running fine. Now what happens if I do something like that, if I just enter ABC, whatever, so it says problem, and it has just gone out, and there is something wrong that has happened with our program, right? Right, is just going into that one. Let's find out the file which we have created in our C files and see if it has logged our error. We have logged our error. Okay, so you see file one I was just using. So you see here that my file is really saying format exception, and this format exception means that we have run into some problem, and now input string was not in the correct format. So again, it has just logged what was the problem. Can you people hear me? You people hear me, but my system has frozen, I think. It's okay. Yes, looks like my meeting will be closed, so I will be just, let's see what will be done, or maybe wait for the program to execute, because my system has gone frozen, and looks like you people are listening to me still. I'll have to move to my other system and see chat over there. So logging in that information, and that problem, whatever was occurred, it has just logged into that problem. And you remember that if we do something else, like again some other problem, and we'll see that what it will do, it will just let us know that what we are. So if I enter a right number, but again for the other number I have just entered a 0, and if I do something like that, it means that I am talking about my file. I should check my file, what it says. You see, it says divide by 0 exception, attempted to divide by 0. So of course, so far so good. It's just doing what it was expected to do, and it is basically just doing what in like the valid or legal way, whatever it has been doing. Now, so what happened? You remember that what is the problem that might occur now? So if I do something like that, the path not found. For example, now we have reached to this exception, and now here what is happening, that files1 folder is not there. And if I run this program and I run to an error, like I run to an exception, because for reaching this point, I need to run or I need to go into the exception. So if I go into the exception again by divide by 0 or by any problem, what happens is that I say, for example, I go by divide by 0. Now there is something wrong has happened. So again, of course, why? Because there is an exception occurred, and that exception is what? System.io directory not found. It says the directory has not been found. It means that there is something problem, because this files1 is no directory with in my system. Only I have files directory name. So now it reached to this exception, and now it basically finds another exception which has not been, of course, which has not been handled. And you remember, to handle this exception, what we can do, and we have done that. And what we can do is that we can just check one thing. And what we can check, that file dot exists. So this is the method that might check that file exists or not. By file exists, we mean that we are talking about that whether you find a file with this path, or you do not find a file with this path. Now I'll close that and I will open that. So what is happening over here? Now I have just enclosed this if, and I say that if this file exists, which file? At this file path, which is not the case right now. Remember, which is not the case right now, and the case is that this file does not exist. So what we do, we else, and we did something interesting. We said that throw an exception from here. If that file is not found, we are just by ourselves throwing an exception, file not found exception, right? And we say that file path and plus concatenation is not found, right? Okay, so I'm just intentionally leaving something out which I used in the last class, but right now I'm just trying to let you know, or maybe just do that. So we pass this exception also from here. Which exception? The main exception that has occurred, because we are inside an exception right now. Is that right? Now, what was the problem last time? Of course, what I was doing wrong was, again, I was just trying to define the catch alongside this one. And Abhinav and I had a discussion, of course, and I was just not getting that. But this exception which will be thrown from here will not be caught, of course, inside that body of this try catch. Why? Because we are already inside this catch. So it means that if I want to do, please remember, this is now I'm trying to, now I'm changing something. So if I have to catch this exception, I have to introduce another try block. And I have to place all this into a try block, right? And I have to define a catch for this one, right? And as I said in the break, someone rightly mentioned that as well, but I kept it for this one. What is happening? I have just placed all this try catch block into another try catch block. And why is that? Because now I am not talking, of course, as the wrong thing that I was doing. So I was trying to catch this exception by using another catch, which is not possible, of course. And again, we had a discussion, but I was unable to just comprehend that. But anyhow, so now if it will throw this exception, it means now we have to go outside and catch that one. Why? Because this whole is now throwing an exception. I hope everyone is getting that, because I want to just take a quick feedback over here, because this was a bit confusing at that time, and I want everyone to be very clear on that. So everyone, those who are like, again, so this try catch block, this will not be caught over here. Rather, I have to make another try catch block, and here I will just try to catch this exception. Thank you. One of the student has just mentioned that, and now I'll just talk about. So again, if something of this kind is happening, now let's talk about that code that we are talking about. So console dot write line, we'll see that what we are doing, write line, and what we say, current exception. Okay, we'll see that current exception. What has happened right now, for which I am inside this exception, right? So for that, what we'll do, ex dot get type and dot name. So what does that mean? Ex is the current exception that has occurred with us, right? So we are just taking the name of that one, And after taking that name, what you see, if I want to see the inner exception for which we reached over here, there was some inner exception also happened over there. So what we see is inner exception equal to bracket 0. Now I close that one and comma. Now you see ex dot. Now ex is our main exception. And what I can do is that I can go into ex dot, and then we have a feature called inner exception. Use this inner exception, right? And now the same, get type and dot name. Understand, everyone? Now, if we reach to this exception by some means, it will just show us, first of all, ex by itself, why we have reached here. And then we can say that, okay, what was there any other, like, was there any other exception happened inside that one or not? Right? So let's run this one. And of course, run into exception, the first exception. So enter a number. So I'm just running into first exception. So you see here what it says. It says there is something has happened. So current exception is file not found. Why? Because the file is not there. In the files one folder is not there. And the inner exception is what? Format exception. Do you understand format exception? Why? Because I have given the wrong format over here. Right? Let's rerun it again, and I'll show you that how it will change the type of error. Now, if I say 0, you see here, current exception is file not found exception, because we have reached here because the file was not found. But the other exception, which was inner exception, is basically what? Divide by 0 exception. Everyone understanding that? Like, again, as I said, this one. So now what is this inner exception? Inner exception is basically something coming from its inside, because I have reached over here. Now there is a problem. There might be a problem. What is that problem? Let's see. If that is a problem right now. Okay, this is fine. And let's see one thing. Let's do one thing. Now I'm making this file correct. It means I'm not throwing this error. Everyone getting that? I'm not throwing this error from it. So if I run that one, right? Enter first number. I say, for example, 12. Second number 0. I want to run into the exception. I have run into exception. File found, and now I have reached. So it says problem, and it's not showing us those two messages. And why it is not showing those two messages? Of course, you know that this exception was not thrown. It means from this main try catch block, we have just run all these tries successfully, and we have not got any exception running from this particular. Understood, everyone? So now what is the exception of course over here? That it will just go, what is the exception that it took us to this point? We have reached to this point. And now what was the inner exception that has taken us over there? And we have just reached to that point. Everyone understand that now? And now you can just, I will just leave that in my code, and you can just run that, and I will just, make it a comment. And I will mark over here what that following is discussed as part of week 5, right? So that when you are looking at the code, you know that we discussed this one in the week 5. So far, so good. Everyone understand that inner exception we are talking about? So whatever exception has reached over here, and now we are just talking about this one. So this was typically the inner exception concept, and of course we were just doing that silly mistake over there. So what is inner exception? Of course, the inner exception property returns the exception instance that caused the current exception. So whatever has taken us over here, that becomes the inner one, and the other one. To retain the original exception, pass it to as parameter to constructor or current exception. So basically, what we have done, we have passed that one as a parameter to our this exception, and we have just found out that this is basically one of the exception that we have reached. Now to get the type of inner exception, use get type method, which we have done, and we have just got the type of exception. Our own exceptions, we'll talk about our own exceptions, custom exceptions, and we have just seen a glimpse of it as well by throwing something. But we'll talk about we can define our own exceptions, and we'll discuss own exceptions after done with some object-oriented concepts. We'll talk about some of the inner exceptions when we'll be just talking about that, right? So now if I just move or try to come into our new mode, like the last time the file that we created, and we started talking about the object-oriented world. Okay, this was not the one. And let's talk about our file that I used last class. I will just opening that file. Okay, so as I said, these exceptions are very important, and in your program, you'll always try to write those exceptions so that when you are testing a program, of course, when the program runs, it should not be running into a problem. Okay, what does it say? I want to open this week 5 file, which was the file we were talking about. Right. So please remember that this is an important part of it. Okay. So last class we started the concept of class. If you remember, what are classes in object-oriented world, and we have talked about briefly talked about some of the object-oriented concepts in last class, and we have seen that what are the typical things that we have. So let me just open up our last class's code. This is here. It's here. So you remember we have talked about that we can define our own classes. I just defined a class with the name of employee. There were two members, the public members, the string name and location. And then we said that you can make a constructor, you remember? So all of you remember this keyword as well, because we have talked about some of the important concepts last class. So there's something called this keyword, which is contextually representing the object where it has been created. So it basically represents this keyword, this dot name. We are talking about the name of that particular employee for a particular object for which we are defining. And we talked about that there is something called a default constructor, a constructor that does not take any values, which automatically runs. It automatically runs, number one. And number two feature was that we do not use even a void before that. And I told you that a constructor necessarily never returns anything. And if a constructor does not return anything, it means that we talk about that basically we have got we basically say that we do not even need to put a void or something, but we need to make it a public one. So by default, if I don't make it a public, that's a problem. And this is something we have someone just mentioned in the last class as well. They want to just discuss about public private as well. So if we don't define this constructor as specifically as public, so usually we'll see that what happens today, that it might just take it as a private one, but we'll talk about that. So this is a constructor, and then we have a constructor which is parameterized constructor. I said that we have done constructor overloading. We have defined a parameterized constructor, and that constructor will take two values and will set up those two values. So this name is coming from the constructor, and now this name is being set to the this dot name, and typically we are talking about the object. Okay, so there was another method that we talked about, but let's first of all see over here. And we say that employee one is equal to new employee, so automatically employee constructor will be called. So now you should be very much familiar with what is a constructor. So you see, technically speaking, this employee which is mentioned over here, this is the constructor that is called. And how do we know that? Because if we see over here that when we see that employee, it is basically showing us that we are calling a constructor with two values, provided two values, right? So all those two values, the parameters that you provide, those parameters will come over here and they will be set up. And you remember, I just told you that we can do these changings if you want. And if you don't want, I can just delete that one. So whatever values will be set up, these all values will be printing up over there, and you can just place all the values. So this was in our last. And then we talked about, please correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about general methods as well, that the general methods that we can use for particular classes. So this is a general method that we have defined inside that class. And we can even use those methods on a particular employee as well. If I say, for example, emp1 dot print employee, so we just say that now it should be printing up the information which is inside this E1 employee one. So the concept I want you people to remember, or you will try to keep with you, is that as I said, the class is a big template of everything. In class, you define what and what. Can anyone tell me? What are the two main stream things in a class? What we say that a class is a combination of what? Code and data. Yes, this is good. Thank you very much. Code and data. You remember, first of all, you mentioned data, and there is called a code as well. And you remember code was the functions or the methods, right? And the data was the variables or the fields, whatever we use, right? So basically code and data is the collection, or that is combined or encapsulated inside a class. Sometimes this is also called encapsulated, and encapsulation or data hiding is one of the concepts, as we talk about, one of the concept of object oriented language. So class is an encapsulation or encapsulated form where we are defining the code and data. So you see this one becomes the code of the class, or even the constructors becomes the code of the class, and the data was the fields, or we are talking about location or that name, whatever we are talking about, they become the fields of those particular things. Okay, so there was something that I had to discuss, and I just took out from the previous lecture, and I will just update that one as well. So if I come back to my slides, so now static and instance class members. So we are talking about static and instance based class member. This is nothing new for you people, because we have already talked about this static and instance class members before. If you remember that we saw that we can have static members or class members. So now let's talk about, with respect to class, the concept of static again. So we are talking about static concept again. We talked about this static when we were talking about methods in the beginning, that if you define a method as a static method, you don't need to call, you don't need to, you can use that directly. Remember, we talked about that if you're defining a static method, not in a class, we are talking about in general form. It was technically, it was also inside a class of program class, but we did not discuss class in that original form at that time. So static methods. So static, if we define members, non-static, it will have its own value for each object. This is an important point that I want to emphasize over here, and I will just give you some examples. So if we define a member as a non-static one, it means whenever an object is created, if you are defining a non-static member, so whenever you create an object, for example, EMP1 I was talking about, this was our first object. So non-static member, all non-static member will have their own values with respect to this this employee, right? If I create an employee 2, E2, it will have its own values. Why? Because the members are non-static. What about static members? If a variable or a method is defined as a static, important, if it is defined as a static, it would be called through class name, but not object. It's important one. It means this static member goes not to the object level, rather it goes to the class level. Employee, employee class we have. What does that mean? It means it will be invoked on class level, not object level, first of all. Secondly, there is only one copy of static members, no matter any number of objects you create. It means the static member of this employee class will always have one instance. It will execute once, right? Be it you create 100 or thousands of objects, the static member will only be created or executed or run only once, not after that. Does that make sense to everyone? We'll see the example shortly. So the static members of a class, they only execute once, or you say invoked once. They are not they are not object dependent, rather they are class dependent. By class dependent we mean that they will be on the basis of class, on the level of class, and they won't be defined, or they won't have their specific value or evaluation inside this E1 or E2. Why? Because they are defined as a sort of a global something that is available for every object. So they are defined once only. They are just used once, right? So there can be many benefits of defining some methods or defining some variables, the fields, the data part as static. And we'll talk about some of the things shortly, that what are the benefits of doing all those things, right? So okay, right. So static members, as I said, that static members are defined, or they are just defined once, and they will have their own particular values, and the value will be same for everyone. Now, out of those static, the one thing, and we'll see our example in that one, that static constructor. There are constructor also static. So now if I ask you, we have discussed many shapes of the constructors. Let's talk about few of them. We have talked about default constructor, and I want you people to just chime in and let me know what you understand from every default constructor. Then we talk about parameterized constructor, right? And now we are talking about a static constructor. Static constructor, right? So now these are default without any values, parameterized with some parameters or arguments. Now, static constructor. A static constructor is what? It is useful to perform a particular action only once throughout the application. Sometimes might be there is something that you want to do only once and you don't want all other objects to have their own copies. Rather, you will say that all other objects will have this particular value, this particular thing. And I'll shortly show you example. Invoked only once, irrespective of the number of class instances. Okay, that is when understand that it will only be invoked once. It will not be invoked for every class. Even though we said that constructor is something that is automatically called when class is created, but static constructor is something that will be invoked first of one time and it won't be invoked after that. Like again, it won't be invoked again. So it's a parameterless, no access modifier needed. Even you do not need an access modifier. Let me show you an example. The example that will be followed. So we'll first just complete that one. So now if you say that it will be parameterized, even you don't need to have a void, access modification as well. Access modification, as I said, private, public, protected, there are different types of access modification. You don't even need to mention private or public. So if I ask you that by default, what it will be, of course, it will be because it's available for every, for a class level. So it will be by default a public one, and we don't want to define even the access modification with that. So only one static constructor is allowed per class. You remember that only one static constructor can be defined, and that will be created. So if I just talk about the example, if I say this example and we define them. So let's talk about this one, and we will be just creating that. So let me just remove the drawing. I'm hoping that you people are following me up, and we'll just see what is going on. Now, so we have got these two, constructors over here. Now here I come and I just define another constructor. But yes, what I said, we don't even need to have this public over here. Why? Because we say that this does not require us config, this modification, access modification as well. So what I'll do here is that I'll say static employee. Now, what I am trying to do here, of course, I am defining a static constructor. How do we know it's a constructor? Anyone can tell me? How do we know it's a constructor? Static is understandable, but how do we know it's a constructor function? It's a constructor method. Yes, can anyone tell me how can it? Yes, the same name as, of course, the same name as its class. Of course, it is basically a constructor, right? So console.write9, I am a static constructor, right? So I'm just mentioning that, and I'll give you an example that what will be a practical use will be example will be followed. So this is one. And now what our program was doing, we had like, let me just make it a bit simplified, or maybe just call those two functions and print those one, right? Remember, we can define emp1 dot print employee and emp2 dot print employee, right? So this is the program that is running. So let's run that, because this has two objects, and let's see what this does for us. Okay, so build started, and it's just going, and it will do it for us. Now you see here, I am a static constructor. Can anyone tell me? Of course, this constructor is basically executed or invoked with which one? The emp1. And even before that emp1, we are looking at it. And why it is coming even before that emp1? Because we say that this static constructor is not on object level. Yes, exactly. It's always the first method to respond. Why? Because this is on the class level. So it means, technically speaking, it means if I just run this program, something like this, I commented out everything and run this program. Let's see what happens. You see what is happening? It's not technically, it's not by itself called. Can I call it by itself? Anyone? Again, without making an object, can I call that one? I can call this one. Let's see if I can call this one. employee dot. Yes. What is that? What is the name of constructor? It's a basically a constructor. So can I call it without that one? Can anyone tell me? Yeah. So now, since it's a constructor, so it will be called automatically at the time of the creation of object. Exactly. So new employee will call it. Yes, you are right. So new employee might call it. So why? Because we have to just create an object for that one particularly. But if it was a general method, we'll see that general method will be, we can call a general method without making a class. And you remember that we have done that before. So again, this static method is typically called at the time of creation of an object. Of course, as we say that you need to create an object and it will be just going and creating. So if you do new employee, that's technically you are just trying to instantiate that object, and this constructor will be called typically over there. So these are called the static constructor. Now, a static constructor typically does what? Let's see another example that we have just seen over here, and I'll just let you know that we can even define some of the fields as well as the static one. For example, if I take out this one from here and I come here and I say, for example, static public location, right? So I've just defined this as a static. So you see, if in this example, what I've done is that public static, you have just defined that. So it should be not static public, it should be public static. The access modification comes first. Now you see, I've defined a field, like again, the data member, by using this static keyword. And as I define that, yes, string. Thank you. As I define that, now you see over here that this dot location is giving me an error. And why it is giving me an error? You see, what is the error? Read that. Static string employee dot location. Member employee dot location cannot be accessed with an instance reference. Qualify it with a type name instead. So for example, why? Because we said that now location is not something that can be referenced by an object. And this represents what? This represents the object reference. So it says that it cannot be accessed by object reference, rather it has to be. So it means I cannot use this statement over here. I will comment this statement out just to check, because I want to. And the same over here, I have to comment this statement as well. Why? Because I cannot now access this location. You are getting that? Why? Because this location is now not accessible on object level, of course, this level. Rather, it is basically accessible on my class level. So what I can do over here, let's do that one thing. I say location equal to, for example, I say London, something like that, right? So location is being set to London. Now, this location is basically, now if you see here, of course, this function would not recognize that one. And if I just remove this, it should recognize this location, because this is inside this class. You understand, everyone? I have to remove this one. Other than Monarch, can anyone tell me why I have to remove this from this method as well? Why I cannot access this as well from here? Other than Monarch, can anyone tell me? Because Monarch is continuously replying to me. Yes, why I cannot use this? Because this is a normal method. And it says that you cannot use this over here as well. Why? Reason. Exactly, this points to an object. Thank you very much. This points to an object. And location is not dependent on any object. Location rather is basically a static member, which I have done what? I have just defined that inside the static member. Okay, now let's run this one. You see, I am constructor, and I have just not opened up this. Let's run this one, right? I want to see the output as well for the both of them. Now you see here, I am a static constructor. Of course, the first object creation constructor is called, right? But if you say the employee Alan resides at London, so we were defining, and we have not defined this location over here now. By first of all, this one, the default constructor. Why? Because this dot location was nothing, and we have just done what? We have just defined this as a location. So what is this location? This is a static member, and this static member is now a class-based one, and it is created, or it is invoked, or it has got a value with the London when it was generated. Now you will say that when we are defining this function like this, when we are defining an object or creating an object like this, We are passing this London, or maybe just change that one. Toronto. Will I get this Toronto as output? Anyone? I'm talking about the new people. I'm talking to the new people again. Will I get this Toronto output or no? Let's run that one, and I will just ask you after showing the output. I'm still looking at London. So those new people, do you understand why this is coming as London, even though I'm passing this as for example, Toronto here? I'm passing this parameter as Toronto. I'm talking to new people. Can anyone answer, please? Yes, you know. Okay, that's very good. Those new people I'm talking about. So yes means you know that, right? So why it is not giving me Toronto rather than it is just giving me London again? It's in object. Okay, yes. Anyone else? Can there be a more simplified explanation? Yes, you're right. It's an object maybe. So anyone else can just define that why it's not showing me Toronto over here, because I've just passed the Toronto in that second second constructor. I'm passing this John in Toronto. So name is correct. John is coming correct, but the Toronto is not correct because Toronto is not coming. It's coming as London. Anyone else? Can there be a more simplified explanation of that? The question is that. Static. So now you remember that this was a static member, number one, and number two, there is a very logical explanation here. You see that this location was passed to it, but this location was not set up by this method, right? Because we have not set up this location to anything. This is the command line now, right? And this location is being set for all the object. Typically, it has been set to London for all the objects. So that reason, again, of course, the most important and the most generic explanation that you can give right now is that you will say that this string location is not set to anything at all. And this was a contextual object. You're talking about a static object. So now we say that this static object was set on the object level, and now it is just printing that level. And whatever you pass it, it will just, and I cannot pass this method without passing this one. I cannot call this constructor over here. And the reason why, because it says that there is no overloaded definition where only one string is accepted. We are accepting two values, even though we are not doing anything with that value, but it will be looking for that second value. Why? Because it is looking for another string, ABC, but that ABC is a dead string now because this string is not set to any value. Understood, everyone? Static constructor. Everyone understands? Those who were not replying, okay. Can anyone just, I need some responses in the chat window. Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you very much. So now what I'll do is that we are reaching to the hour, and let's take a 10 minutes break. It's 8:55. I'll be back at 9:05. So let's take a quick break, quick refresher, and back at 9:05. So welcome back after the break. Now we have just talked about this this static keyword and static files, static fields we can talk about. We have seen the example over there, the location, we changed that to the static location. And if that is a static location, of course, that will be that we are setting that one in the static one. And that would be on the object, on the class level, not an object level. We have talked about that. So more on that when we'll be just moving on. But now we are moving on, and we are about to discuss some other important aspects of object-oriented programming in detail. First thing we'll be talking about the inheritance. And those who are unfamiliar, of course, we will be just talking about in a greater detail few important things that we need to discuss. There are a few important aspects that we want to highlight over here. Inheritance, which is effectively another very important part of the object-oriented world or object-oriented arena that we need to work on. So let me just share my screen. Right. So basically, what's going on? We say that we will be just talking about now inheritance. So you remember we have talked about that. We were just talking about, if you relate it to the object-oriented concepts, something that we have just already talked about was the encapsulation or the defining of a class and defining of an object. Now we know what is a class, what is an object. and we have seen the different types of constructors and methods of the classes, and now we are basically familiar with most of the terminology. Now today we'll start, or now we are start talking about the inheritance, which is another important pillar or important part of object oriented world. Let's start that. Inheritance is one of the primary concepts of object oriented programming, and it is used to inherit the properties from one class to another class. Now here comes the concept of a child class or derived class. There are multiple names for that. So what we say that we have, as I said, we have a concept of a child class over here, and this child class can also be called, as I said, can be called as derived class, right, and something like that. Now what is the concept? If you talk about other than object oriented programming languages, like I'm talking about the functional programming, maybe I'm talking about the C language in specifically. If you ask, I might maybe talking about the C language. So in C language, if you have made a program and you are using, for example, 3 or 4 variables, 3 or 4 fields for a particular software, and you come up with your software, and someone says that no, we were looking for more than 3 values, like more than 3 fields. For example, let me draw that one and show you what I mean. So I'm talking about classical C language or the functional programming language, that you have written down a program of maybe 5,000 lines, right? So there are 5,000 lines, and you have created a program on the basis. For example, you are creating a student management, name, age, and registration number, for example, right? So you come up with a software in C language, and you say that I have done with the software, and I've created this name, age, and registration. And on those 5,000, 50,000 lines of code, whatever these are, you have used this name, age, and registration number. Now, when you come up with this one, someone says to you that, okay, so we did a mistake. We were looking for 2 more fields with that. I want to add, for example, the father name as well over here, right? And I want to add, for example, anything else, maybe the the place or a country or whatever address, for example, address, right? I want to add these 2 fields. Now, in a functional programming language, non-object oriented programming language we are talking about, if you get the scenario something like this, now you are in serious problem. Why? Because on those all methods or functions where you have used these 3 fields, you now have to go and introduce or induce these 2 more fields, right? The father name or the address, you have to just embed. So there are lots of functions which are just calling these 3 fields, and you have to just make a change everywhere. So effectively speaking, virtually speaking, you are redesigning the system. You know what I mean? You have to just redesign all the system, redevelop all the software. Why? Because going into every function and adding these 2 functionalities, this will be as I said, a cumbersome or a very difficult task you need to do. Why? Because this is something that is very problematic. Maybe if you are able to do that, but you will get a lot of pain doing that. On the other hand, in object oriented world, it's a bit different, because in object oriented world we talk about the classes. So we say, for example, take the same scenario which we have just taken. You have created a class with student name, right? Student. Now you use those 3 fields. You said name, age, and registration number. I have just used these 3 fields. You come up with your program to me, with your project to me, and you say that I've done this project. I say, okay, but I need to add 2 more fields, as I was telling you, right? The address and father name. Add the address and father name over here. So what you will do in object-oriented world, you will say, okay, this is not a problem for me now. Why? What I'll do is that I'll make this as a parent class, and I'll create its child class. I'll create a child class, and this child class will have only 2 variables in it: the father name and the address. Now, I don't need to redefine all the things that I have defined over here. What I'll do is that I'll make a new class with only 2 fields and use all the features of this class in this one. Rest, other than that, only I'll just make change on this father name and address part, the fields part. Do people understand this story? This story is that you made a program with 3 fields. You made a class, of course, in object-oriented world, you are creating classes. You made a class in here, and you come to me and you say that I've done with the project. I say add 2 more fields. You say, okay, no problem. I'll just create another class, the child class over here. And this child class will have father name and the address into it. And this will become a class on its own, and it will inherit all the features of its parent class. Are you people getting that? This thing that I'm just trying to explain here over here. So this is a basic concept. So in object-oriented world, what we do, we inherit properties from one class. So the class, which is the parent class, we inherit properties from that one, and we inherit them inside what? The child class. So all the features of the parent class, the base class, will come inside this child class. So as I said, this class will be called as base class. This class will be called as parent class, right? Or this class can be called as a super class. There are multiple names for that. But you have to remember that, for example, if I just write down something like this, if there is a parent class, right? So parent class, I can create the child class for that. So this will be our child class. Right, just give me a second. All right, so sorry, I had a call from a doctor's office, so that's why I just had to receive that. Anyhow, so yeah, so basically what we are talking about over here is that the parent class, like again, as I said, there will be a main class, a super class, or the parent class, or we can call it a base class or whatever. And then we'll create its child, which will be called as child class or the subclass, or there are multiple names for that. So the effectively, the concept is that getting all the features, getting all the properties of the parent into what? Into the child class, and that is something that we'll be doing. Okay, or combining like properties into one. So let's talk about the other thing, the other way around. So we are saying that taking or using all the features of parent and creating a child class. This is one way of saying the same thing. And the other part, the other thing is combining like properties into one. So what is that? For example, there are, if I say that there were 2 classes which were having the same data members. For example, let me just make a text over here. I have a class, for example, I have a class A, or maybe this class A, you call it. And this class has, for example, what I'm saying, string name and int age, whatever. And it as, for example, or let us just take a very old sort example of, for example, a class. This is a car class, for example. The string name, integer, not age, integer, for example, model, etc., and then so maybe just these 2 features, just keep them. So there's a class, for example, there are certain features, and we might say that there are lots of lot of other features as well. And what we do is that we try to combine those features. For example, there is another class, or for example, bike or etc., and it has got string name, etc., and it has got something else, right? So string anything. So I'm just trying to make you explain, and we'll see the example as well. So what we say that basically what we are doing, that if 2 classes have these 2, for example, features, what we do, the combined feature or the common features of these 2 classes, we take them out and we will create a main class for them. It's the other way of saying that. what I was saying, and again, I'll just draw that one for you. That I say, for example, you have a car class which has certain features, right? And these are the 4 features in it. And there is a bike class which has, like, again, 4 features in it. But out of these 4 features, these 3 features are common in both of them. So what I'll do, I say, okay, just combine them into one class, for example, and these 3 features should be defined in that class, right? So these 3 are gone from this one, and these 3 are gone from this one. And now this child class will have only one, one distinct feature, and this will have this one distinct feature. The rest, all the features will be coming from its parent class. So it's again saying the same thing, but the other way around. So as I said, all the features of this parent will be available into this child. All the features of this parent will be available into this child, and this child will have its own some features, some unique features as well, that will make it unique for that particular situation. Does that make sense? And again, as I said, we'll see the examples. It will be more clear to you. So that is typically what combining the like properties into one and make it a parent class, and combining like properties of, as I said, of bike and car, and then making a maybe a vehicle class, and that will contain all those things. So enables us to create a new class by inheriting the properties from other classes to reuse, extend, and modify other class members' behavior based on our requirement. As I said, so this is again, as I said, from going top to bottom and then bottom to top, and then again we are talking about top to bottom. That create a new class by inheriting the properties from the parent or other classes to reuse, and we want to reuse the code. We want to extend the code. We want to just make that code extended. As I said, for 3 fields you created a software, I want to add 2 more fields, so you will have to just create that one, and you will have to just add 2 fields onto that one, or modify other class members, or maybe sometimes you will be modifying some of the class members that I want to modify that particular class members, right? So the concept of base parent and derived child class. So here, as I said, these have multiple names. You can call it a base class, you can call it a child class, you can call it a parent class, whatever. So these all are basically the things that we need to keep in mind. So basically, what is happening is that we are saying that this parent and child class relationship will be in a way that parents' properties adopted, or all properties being used by the child class. So here is one example that we can just create, and we will just talk about this example, and let's work on this one, and we will just try to create that one. So now let's put all this, maybe let's put this class employee for the time being, and I am putting that on a comment again for the future roles, for future purpose and future usage, right? So now let's try to create a class, and then I'll be just showing you that how you can do that. So let's create a class, and I'm calling this class as, for example, and let's call it public class user. So I'm just defining a generic class of user. Any type of user can come over here, right? And I'll let you know that how you will just do the different kind of things, right? So now in this user class, what I want to do is that I'm defining public string name, right? And then here comes something important that we have not discussed: private string location. Now let's talk about this access modification over here. We have not talked about this one. A private member, whenever we define a private member in a class, that member will only be accessible inside the class and not outside of the class. So again, please bear in mind, those who are new, someone mentioned that. So private member cannot be accessed outside of a class. For those who are new, I'm just mentioning. Of a class means of the class where it has been defined. So this member cannot be accessed out of the class. Rather, this member can be accessed, right? Why? Because this is called as public. So public, as you know, as the name suggests, public is a public something which is accessible to everyone. You can find it everywhere. And then we had a private, and private means that we will be just confined to that particular class. And we'll see the example shortly. First of all, let's create that. Okay, so we have created two fields. One field is open to the world. The other field is not open to the world. Now let's create a constructor. So default constructor, right? So console.writeLine, and let's say user class constructor, or let's write down parent constructor, right? This will become a parent constructor, user class constructor or parent, so that when we are calling it, we know that what's going on, right? So here in my example, I've just taken another function. Let's take that function, get user info, right? And by passing a string location. Okay, so you see squiggly error. Why? Because I've mentioned. So if it is a method, you need to mention void, right? Remember that. And if it's a constructor, you do not do that, right? So you say location equal to LOC, right? The LOC which is coming over here. So this location will be accessible over here. You remember? I'm saying that these private members will not be accessible outside of the class, but inside members this will be accessible. So location and then console.writeLine and name is equal to 0, and that is name over here, right? We are accessing this name from this one, and then console.writeLine, and we are saying location equal to 0, right? And location over here, and we'll see the examples at bottom. So this is one function which will just display the information or get user of like information of the user. It will just display us. So this is a class. Typically, we have just created a class user, defined 2 fields, and one of the field we have made a different change, a slight change, and we say that now the location is a private member, and if it is a private member, it cannot be accessed out of the class. So it will be only confined to this particular class over here, right? So now let's create a child of it. So whenever you have to create a class as child of the previous one, we use this syntax. So I am calling it, for example, a super user or something. So I want to create a super user, a colon, and the class name, which is different for different languages. Those familiar with Java, how do we create the child class? Inherit the previous class? Those Java people, because it's a bit different in, of course, in language, like depending upon the language, it's different. So Java people, how do we make the child extends? Yes, not I think you are right. So extends keyword is used to create the child classes over there, and here there is no extend keyword, right? Rather, this colon will make it the child. So super becomes a child class, user is a parent one. Super becomes a subclass, this is a super class, and super becomes, as I said, this the derived class, and the user is a. So let me just write down that over here for those. Super here is derived now. Super is derived, and user is base, right? So base class. We have to just keep that in mind because we'll be just looking at into this some of the concepts. So creating a child class, and now what we are doing is that we are just defining a single variable age, right? And we say, for example, public super constructor, right? The first constructor is created, and console.writeLine, and what we can call it as a, we have said user class, so we'll say super class, super class constructor, sorry, otherwise, constructor. And as I said, it's a derived class, right? It's a derived class, so that we know that what's going on, right? So this is the derived class constructor. We have just created a constructor, and now a method, public void. Again, whenever the method comes, of course, you need to keep in mind that method should have specification modification as well, right? So console.writeLine and age equal to this one. So age will come from over here, right? So these are the 2 classes. So this is a parent class or a super class. We have seen this is a parent class, and now we have created a child class. So that name I've used maybe should not confuse you. Here this will be the super. Here is the derived / child class. So bear in mind, the child class. User here is base, or what should I write? Parent class, right? So that it's not a confusion. So got everyone? We have just created two classes. One class is the parent class and the second one. So again, diagrammatically, if you see diagrammatically what is happening, of course, we can just quickly see that this is a user class, and user has two member data like the fields, name and location. We are not talking about the specification right now. And then we have created a super class, super user, right? And we are calling this super user as it will be the child of this one. So it has just only one member into it. This is age, and rest of the members it will just adopt from the parent one, right? That is, I'm expecting that you people now understand. Now moving forward. So now we have just created this super, the name with the super, and this is basically a child class for that particular scenario. Right. So let's call this one. And right. So let's use this one as well. Yes, the extent people have mentioned is basically the class. Right. So let's do that. So we have a child class. It's called super. Right. So let's child obj. I'm just calling it child obj, right? We can name it anything that you want, and we are naming it. So new super. So I'm calling the base constructor of this one, right? This on child object. But everyone, now child object dot name equal to Alan Smith, whatever, right? So child object dot name. Now this dot name does not exist inside this child object. You know, this child object, basically the object that I've created is of this super class, and super class does not have name inside it. Is it right? It does not have a name inside it. But I am accessing this name from this child object class. And how do I am accessing? Because now this super class, which is the child class of our user, it can access everything over there. So now if I do that, now I am not talking to everyone. I will just ask few people to just answer this one. Equal to Toronto. I'm talking to those new people. I know that there are lots of people who understand this one, but right now I'm talking to those new people. Those who understand, of course, they will write a yes, and those who do not. I am unable to access this dot location over here. Why? I was able to access name, but I'm not able to access this location. Why? I'm asking to those people. Yes, thank you. Yes means I, of course, you understand. Yes. So Krupa, you're right. The location is not a public member, rather it's a private variable, private member. So we cannot access location from this part. That's important, right? So this is something that I cannot do over here. So it means for the time being, let's talk about this. For the time being, if I say that I cannot access this one, right? So, but I want to set up the location over here. So how can I set up the location maybe over here? By using our for example, by using our super super class or super something. What I'll do is that let's do something like that. So in my child class, what I'll do, this child class, right? And now I want to define a function over here. And what function? That function will be taking me or just setting the location for myself, right? Okay. So this is our get age over here. And now let's talk about our function. So now this get user info is a function, is a method that is basically available in our user class. So, and what is this method? Is this method a public one or a private one? Of course, this is a public one. And if it is a public one, it means that I can access this method over here. So let's, rather than defining it, rather what I can do over here is to set up the location. What I can do, I can access child obj dot, so get, what is that? Get function or get location? Get this one. Get user info. So I'll call get user info over here. Get user info, and I can pass a location over here. If I say, for example, London. Now what is happening? I'm accessing this get user info function. And what is this get user info function? It's a public function, and I'm passing a location to it. Why? Because I want to set up the location, right? So whatever location I'll pass it, that location will set to the location variable. And what is this location variable? This is the private variable. Now, is this location variable accessible in get user info? Of course, yes. Why? Because this location is basically the member variable of this particular function. Is that right? So now I just access, and if it is a public member, of course I can always access that. So child obj dot get age. I can call this get age function as well. Why? Because I want to print the age as well, right? And now let's run that one and see what will happen, and we'll just change its shapes a bit. So right line end. I'm just ending it over here, right? So we have just run what, and let's run this one, and I'll show you what is going on, what is happening, how it is accessing all those things. Terminator missing. Good. Thank you very much. You are very sharply finding out. And of course, it would give me error, but again, I just no, I don't want to run. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I missed that terminator. Now it should be fine. Now you see here, let's talk about this one. I have created a child class. Super is my child class. Bear in mind. Let me just make it on the left and this one to the right. Right. So see here, I have accessed this, So if you see here, I've created a child object. But what output I'm getting first? Super class constructor. You see, it says super class constructor, drive class one. So you see, I am creating this child obj. And if we go to this child obj class, again, I'm creating this one by using this one, the super class constructor. So super class constructor means, again, it is calling its own constructor over here, right? I should not write a super class because super is a keyword, and those who are familiar, I can say child class constructor, right? So that it does not create a confusion. So you see here. Now what we see is that, of course, you see here that first of all, what it is doing, if you see here, that we are accessing this child class object, and the first constructor which is running, what is that running? You see, user class constructor. Is that right? The user class constructor. And why it is calling the user class constructor? Because this class, the child obj, the super class, is basically a child object of that one. Yes. So why it is doing that, Abhinav? Can you just apply that? Why it is accessing the parent class constructor? Because it's a child class.
Because professor, the child class has been inherited from the parent class, and whenever we are creating the object of any child class, then first constructor will gonna call or come into play. That's called the parent class constructor.
Parent class. Thank you very much, Abhinav. Thank you very much. So now the first thing which should be when we are creating this one, so it has a parent class, and this parent class has a constructor. So this parent class constructor will be called first, user class constructor, parent constructor. It is called, and then since I have just created this object, so it will call its own constructor. What is that? Its own constructor? Its own constructor is something like this. This one. So if you see here that this one, this super class also has a constructor which is called child class constructor and drive class constructor. So now it is showing us child class constructor, and then comes interesting part. Then I have called this method get user info. I have just set up the name Alan Smith. And then I've called this get user info. When I call this get user info function, it goes over here and it passes. I have passed a location over here with London. So what it does is that it accepts this location and it sets up this location to the location variable, which was not accessible over here. You remember, I could not access this location over here directly. Rather, I have to access this method, which will go into my my program, and this will set up the location variable. And by using this get user info, I'm just printing up a location. Console.writeLine name and that location. It will just print out that name and location over here, right? So now if I just say that get user info London, it has passed the location and set up that location. And if you see here child.getAge, we are just getting the get age, And here we have just not set up this age to anything. Of course, age is basically initialized to 0. So it's just giving over here. And what we can do is, okay, we can just define it over here maybe, or you can do whatever you want. So if we have not set up, of course, it will just initialize to 0. Whatever is its basic value, it will just accept that value. So now I've just set up it's 23, so it will be accepting this 23 over here. Now, what is happening? I have created a class. So now let's do something with it. Let's play with it. Let's make it a comment and create the parent class constructor. So parent class is user parent POBJ. Let's write in POBJ to make it short. Parent object new user, right? And POBJ dot get user info, and let's pass a location to it. And this can be whatever. And let's run it. And of course, now what will happen? We are just talking about the main class, the parent class. So it will just go to the parent class, run that one, and user like parent class constructor, and it is just showing. So why there is no name over here? Why name is not appearing? Because in this main class, we have not defined this name. We have not given this name. Rather, we were giving this name by defining the object. So it means that if I want to give it a name, I can give it over here. Obj dot name equal to John, whatever. Right? Now, another thing, can I access this location from here? Yes. So I cannot access it from this object, even though, of course, you know, whenever something is defined private, it cannot be accessed, not even by this own object of this class. Are you getting that? We cannot even access it by the objects of own class. And so it means that this location is not available to anywhere outside of this class world. And if you have to set up the location, you have to do something like that again. Use that get user info. So this is regarding the parent class. Right? So parent class only calling parent constructor and then defining these values, and we did not define the name. Now we have defined the name. So of course now it will just show us the name John and all, as well as the location as Krishna. Right? So this is basically what this is our related to parent class. But now let's talk about this child class, and then we'll just see different shapes of it. So everyone understand this child class method? So by using this child class, we are accessing all those methods as we were accessing this name obj. So parent obj dot name, I can access this parent obj dot name. I'm using the same thing with the child object as well. Everyone understands that? I need some feedback from those new people, because then I'll just move forward, because I have to just discuss the types of inheritance now. So inheritance does what? Inheritance allows us to have all those things being discussed, defined in our parent class to be accessible to the child class. So what this child class is doing, it is just defining one variable inside it and just printing that one variable over here. But other than that, if you have to set location and for example, if I ask you that if I just don't call this function over here, what will happen? Of course, you know that it will set up the name, but this name would not be printed anywhere. Why? Because the name and location are printed by get user info. So you see here, first of all, parent class constructor called, of course, that should be the sequence. That child class constructor called drive class 1, age is equal to 23. Why not name and location? Because I have just made this line comment which was accessing get user info, and get user info was the function of this one. Okay, so let just for the out of curiosity, if I do this private void get user info, right? So what happened? Of course, if you have defined this function as private, you won't be able to access that function even. So anything that has been defined as private will not be accessible. And by the way, just keep in mind, or maybe sometimes if you can understand the concept right now, I'll just make it more understandable to you, that usually our functions are of public access modification. Why? Because we open the functions for the public and we hide some of the variables inside that one, so that no one can accidentally change those functions. This is usually also called as data hiding as well. You understand the concept? Data hiding is what? We are hiding our variables, we are hiding or saving our variables not to be accessed by that one. And what I can do is that I can just define even this string like name also as private. And now what I'll do is that I won't allow anyone to access this name and location directly. So we are hiding this data from the user and we are keeping that data in our class. And this data will only be accessible, it will only be available to my class. And outside of class, if I try to access, as you remember, even your own class object cannot access that one. And the reason is that this basically is not a private member. A private member cannot be accessed by the object also. You cannot you cannot even access it through the object also. So got everyone? I need some feedback in the chat window, then we will move forward because we are now moving ahead. That's good. That's good. Some people are responding. Right. So this was the example. So now the words that you need to remember, the common concepts that you need to remember: specialization and generalization. So let me just draw that one, and you should understand the concept. When you are going from top to bottom, you are doing something, and when you are going from bottom to top, you are doing something. What do I mean by bottom to top and top to bottom? I talked about that there is one class, and in creating the child classes of this one, we'll see that we can create multiple classes, child classes. So you are going from this one to this one. So this will be called something. And when you have two classes and you are combining their features into one class and creating one major class or the parent class, you are going into this direction. So can anyone tell me which one is specialization, which one is generalization? Out of these two circles, which one is the specialization, which one is the generalization? Like let's call it A and let's call it B, situation. So A is generalization or specialization? Those who are familiar, then I'll tell you. A is specialization or A is generalization, or B is specialization or generalization? What do you mean specialization? And can you mention which one you are talking about, A or B? A is specialization. So remember, whenever you are going from top to bottom, A is basically doing what? We are specializing. We are creating child classes. Specialized means this class has generic features. I want a specialized feature, right? So for example, we say, for example, let's create a common scenario, doctor. So yes, B is a generalization. Yes, you're right. So if I say that doctor is one class. So for example, I say eye specialist. So eye specialist will be what? Specialization. We always say that this is specialization. Or we can say, for example, someone, psychiatrist or whatever, they will be specialization. But they have all the features of what? Doctor. So psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, they have just all the features of the doctors as well, and they can be dentist as well. So they have all the. So no, if I'm going from top to bottom, defining specialized form of doctor, I'm saying that A is specialization. I'm talking about specialization. And whenever I had, for example, I had this eye specialist, I had this, for example, dentist, and I had all those things. And what I'm doing, I'm saying that, okay, these are all three the doctors. Why not just combine their doctor type of data and make one class of that and call it a doctor class? So what I'm doing is that I'm doing this generalization. Generalization, combining properties into one. Specialization, using one property and defining a unique property and that in that other particular class. Understand, everyone? So this is basically a concept, and you should remember that when we are defining the classes, child classes, we are basically doing what? Specialization. And specialization typically refers to that we have got the class which is being specialized to the other forms. Right. So now we are moving forward, and we are reaching to some of the advanced concepts, and we'll just talk about a few of them. Multi-level inheritance. So there are certain types of inheritance, and let me just draw that one. For example, for you, this is one class. We have talked about user class, for example. I want to create a super user. I want to create a super user, for example, what I've done. I've clicked it, and I can create another maybe admin user, right? Let's call them. This is my user scenario. User. This is my super user, right? And this is my admin user. For example, we are just defining this one. So now, one class can produce and can be used to create multiple classes. Someone is waiting in waiting room. Okay. So one class can be used to create multiple classes. Single inheritance, right? So C# supports single inheritance. What does that mean? It cannot happen that super and admin can combine together to create a new class. This is not allowed. This is not called single inheritance, or this is typically that this one is called multiple inheritance. This is called multiple. So multiple inheritance is not allowed in C#, while as multi-level is allowed. What is that multi-level? You create one class and then child of that class and then child of that class. For example, you have just some specific user, you say John class, for example, whatever. You have created a John's class, for example, and you say that now this is, so one class, it's child class and its child class. So this hierarchy can go on. This is called multi-level inheritance. But you can never do that. There are two classes and you say combine together to make at least in C#. But in C++, multiple level inheritance is allowed, if I remember correctly. So you see in C++, you can create that one. Java also does not allow us multiple level inheritance. Those Java people, that Java also does not allow multiple level inheritance. So in C++ it is allowed, but in C#, you are not allowed to use this multiple level inheritance. Rather, you are only allowed to have a multi-level inheritance, no multiple level inheritance. Is that clear to everyone? Right. So now this is what we'll just see that one of the example of this one. And we are again reaching to our hour. So let's take a 10 minutes break. It's 9:50. So I'll be back at 10 and we'll have a short session. We'll just discuss a few things and then we'll just wind it up. So let's take a quick 10 minutes break. I've been asked to take 10 minutes break every hour. So now I'll be back exactly at 10 a.m. Right. So break the till then. Let's meet after the break. And share my screen. All right. So a question, someone has asked a question in the break, and I'll just first of all, what is the difference between specialization and multiple inheritance? I would like someone else to answer that, maybe. What is the difference between specialization and multiple inheritance? This is a good question considering the context of this class. So I'm just copying that question and pasting it over here so that everyone can see. Maybe chat window, some people would have missed out. Yeah, so this was the question by someone. What is the difference between specialization and multiple inheritance? Would anyone like to tell me? Those who have prior experience, maybe, if they can answer this question, and then we'll discuss about this. Difference between specialization and multiple inheritance. Or is it a logical question or not? Because maybe sometimes we try to compare two things which might not be which might not be comparable, maybe. But anyhow, I would like to have some comments from some people. This is a good question, as I said. So questions are always encouraged. If you have any question, you should always ask, and this is a very good question that has come, and I'm happy that someone has started maybe asking something, because looks like people are listening to me. Otherwise, looks like I'm talking to the wall and talking to my laptop only. Yes. Can anyone just tell me what is the difference between specialization and multiple inheritance? Anyone? It's open for all. It's not for specifically for new people. It's open for all. The floor is open for everyone.
So specialization like setting a type to a generic type, and then and then multi-level inheritance is just like getting the same methods and like the same definition as the parent, and then yeah, the specialization is like you have a generic type and then you specify the type, and then that it makes it so it's kind of generic to different things and you can pick one.
Oh, that's right. Excellent. Scott, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? Yes, this is a good explanation, but I'll just discuss that. I need maybe 1 or 2 more answers. Thank you for unmuting and discussing it. Thank you. Anyone else? You can unmute yourself. This is good because unmute typing is always a pain. You can always unmute yourself and say something, whatever. Anyone else would like to just jump in and give their concept? Yes, maybe I'll have to just call someone. Payal, can you just explain? Can you answer this question? What is difference between specialization and multiple inheritance? It can be anyone. Okay, anyhow. So now let's discuss that. You're not sure. Okay, no problem. No problem. So let's answer this question. The one like the student who asked that difference between specialization. In specialization, I said that one class is specialized into the other class. I'm just talking about specialization first, right? One class is specialized to the another class. Let's again go back to this example and let's take a very again big old example. Vehicle is a class. When I say vehicle, you know that vehicle can be of different categories. It can be a car, it can be a bike, it can be a boat, it can be a plane. Like again, there can be different types of vehicles. So I had a generic class vehicle. I specialize that vehicle into a car. I say that I am creating a new class which will be a car because vehicle can have, as I said, it can be a boat maybe or something. So I am a specialization there. Now I am specializing specializing that into another one, and I say bike. I want to create a bike that has maybe different features, different unique features. I'm saying that I'm creating a boat, for example. Like it can also be called as a vehicle or something. So what I'm doing effectively, that I am trying to specialize vehicle. Vehicle is a generic term and something that is used for transporting people from one place to the other or transporting something from one place to the other. So it will have some common features. I'm specializing those features and creating one of the vehicle which is called a car. So car does have all the features of this vehicle and car has its own unique features as well. So these are the unique features of car, unique. And these 3 features or 4 features are coming from this, excuse me, vehicle class. Same goes here. Bike will have all the features of this vehicle because bike is the specialized child class of that vehicle. And bike will have its own unique feature, maybe 2 unique features. Same goes with the boat. All unique, all combined features, and now unique features, 2 unique features. Excuse me. All right. So this was called as specialization, where we are saying that one class, and we are specializing that for a particular scenario. Now the question which was asked by a student was multiple inheritance. What is the difference between multiple inheritance? Listen about that. This is different. I am saying multiple inheritance is something like that. For example, I say so for example, there are certain types of I don't exactly remember what they are called, which can be used as a boat as well as a car, for example. Anyone knows what they are called? Amphibian vehicles. I don't exactly know their name. Can anyone just help me out? Because there is a type of vehicle that can be used as a boat and as well as the car or something like that. We can run it on road. Or okay. If someone just hovercraft. Maybe I don't know exactly. So listen about that. Electronic vehicles. Okay, let's talk about that. If I am able to connect, if I am able to see use all the features of boat and all the features of class into one class. Listen about that. This is a bit different. I am combining and creating a new class by having 2 parents. Parent 1 is car, parent 2 is boat. Are you getting that? If you are doing something like that, this is called multiple inheritance. Now, please bear in mind, going from this direction to this direction, and extending the feature of one class into the others. It is allowed, and it is called multi-level inheritance. It is not multiple inheritance. If you start going in the reverse direction, you say that I am combining this feature and this feature into a new class. This is called multiple inheritance, which is not allowed over here. Kamal, do you understand the concept a bit? Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. So it's basically what that. What I was saying, that generally speaking, we might not compare these two. What we compare will be a specialization and generalization. So if I ask you in this scenario, what is specialization? Specialization is going from vehicle to car, bike, and boat. And what is generalization? Going from car, bike, and boat to vehicle. And it's not it's not that we are using these features to this one. No, we are combining the common features into one class, and it's not we are inheriting these three classes. It's basically something that we are combining these three features in one new class and now inheriting these classes from them. I hope that clears the concept. And thank you, Kamal, for asking this question. Maybe some other people also had this question and they might not be asking this one. So I'm just quickly doing that. Just telling you. And I will be asking you. Okay, I'm asking this direction. What I'm doing? Am I doing specialization? One class being created to. Okay, and what I'm doing right now? Can anyone tell me in terms of inheritance what I'm doing? I'm doing multi-level inheritance. One class, its child, and its child can have multiple childs. It can have multiple childs up to so on. So it is called multi-level inheritance. Multi-level. This is one level of inheritance. This is one level of inheritance. This is called multi-level, which is very much allowed in our C#. Right? And how about this scenario? If I change this scenario, I say that I had this class, I created these two classes. So far, so good. I say that I'm doing multiple inheritance. Multi-level inheritance. And this is single inheritance as well. One class producing two childs. And here I say, okay, this class has three childs. It can happen. It can have three classes. Now I say that these two combining together and like creating a new class. What I'm doing over here? What is this concept over here? Now here is the concept of what? Multiple inheritance. Multiple level. And this multiple level inheritance is not allowed in C#. As I said, it's allowed in, I think, C++. Even it's not allowed in Java. Java does not also allow us to combine two classes into one class. And when I'll talk about this code example, I hope I'll just make it more clear over there in the code example. Got everyone? So this is called specialization, and this is called. So let's now talk about. Okay, now I will be just making another class and making the child of that particular class. Now you see here. This is our program. Let's make it a bit bigger for the time being. Now I come here. I have this super class. Now I will just go after this super class, right? And I create maybe admin class, and I am extending it with super. Now, just quickly tell me which one is child class, which one is parent class here. In my scenario, line 41. Which one is child, which one is parent? Of course, we should know that. In my line 41, which one becomes parent, which one becomes child? Okay, you write. You understand that. That's good. Admin is child and super is parent. Of course. Thank you very much. Admin is child and super is parent over here. Now let's define something into this one as well. And maybe let's take one example and we say public int and we say registration number maybe. All right. So we have defined one variable over here. Is that right? So public integer registration number. And what else do I want in that one? Maybe let's define a method here. Public void get registration number, whatever. Let's define a function over here. Public void get registration. And let's do something. Console.log. So registration number is, let's do that, 0 and reg number. registration number, right? And let's just define some registration number, arbitrarily any number here or here, and then we can just set up the functions and we can just do that. Oh, not log. JavaScript again came into action. Console.writeLine. Right, so I've just defined a function get registration, which just prints out the typically the registration number, right? So let's see what comes up now. I have just created another class admin, which is the child class of super, right? I have not defined the constructor for that one. Let's define the constructor also. Public admin, right? Public admin, and here I'll again do that console.writeLine, and I'll say I am child of super. I am admin constructor, right? So that we know that what's going on, right? I am a child of super class and I am admin constructor, right? So let's go over here and let me just make all these comment, and let's use the other one. Now I have got the admin class, so admin adm obj equal to, right, admin object new admin, right? So I've just created this new admin, and now what I can do is that I can call maybe admin.get registration, adm obj dot get registration, just calling this function. Let's see what comes up. So I want to just explain you what is going on and how we'll just explain that one. Now you see here, I have just created the object of my child class. Which is the child class? This is the child class of this admin is the child class of super. Super is the child class of user. So when I create this object, you see first constructor is called, as Abhinav said. So now first of all, the parent constructor will be called, from which the user class, the constructor called of the parent, then child constructor called. And what was the child constructor? It was the constructor of derived one, and it was the super class, the constructor of super class. Now the third one says I am child of super, again the child of this one, and I am admin constructor. So I am basically admin constructor, the constructor of this particular class, and registration number is 12, and it's just showing that registration number is 12 over here. So understand that? So it's basically doing what? It is just accessing that one. Now let's do one thing. So this child class, this admin child class will have feature of all its parent, whatever is in the parent, and it has all the features of its grandparent as well. Now let's do one thing. Let's go over here and see what is available to this one. ADM obj dot. So you see which functions are available. It also has the get age as well, right? So get age is coming from where? From its parent. So let's call that one. ADM obj dot get user info. Is it available? Of course, this is also available. And where it is coming from? For example, let's see where it is coming from. It has to come from where? The parent, and it looks for a location. Let's write down, for example, London again. Right? So get user info. Is that right? So now I'm calling what? I'm calling this get in this get registration. I've already called this is the method inside this admin. Now I'm calling get age from this one, right? And then get user info from this one. And now let's see and let's run. Is it able to access everything that we have defined over here? Now you see here. Okay. Now you see here. User class constructor, the parent constructor, first of all. Child class constructor, the super class constructor, right? The super, which was the name. I am child of super, I am admin constructor, or third constructor. All constructors have come. Now I have called, of course, registration first. So it's giving the registration first. Registration number is 12, which has been coming from where? From the grandchild class. Age is equal to 23. Age is coming from what? From its parent class. And we have not set up the name. Of course, location is set up, and we have not set up the name. So name is not coming anything. And this is coming as London. So now basically what is happening? that it is accessing. Now, if you see that we are accessing those particular things. So can I do one thing? Let's do one thing. I will just put them in sequence so that Control X, and now I will paste it over here. And again, get age also should come in between that. So get user info. Now, can I access ADM OBJ dot name? Alex, whatever, right? So now let's run this one. Now you see here, what is happening? It says user child constructor, and child of super, name is equal to Alex, and location is equal to London, age is equal to 23, registration is 12. And now these all are coming in sequence. This function, this method defined inside this child class, this method coming from its parent, this method coming from its grandparent. Grandparent is the user class. It is coming from them, and you see that I can also set up this name over here, and I can just define this name also over here. Got everyone? Now I'll tell you. So everyone is getting that. Now this child class, the child class that I've created, this admin, admin, which is the child class of super, it is just able to access everything being defined over here or everything being defined over here. It will just access each and everything. I need some feedback. Getting the concept so that we move forward, and I'll just make some explanation or some differences in this program. Okay, thank you very much. So people are now just letting me know that yes, they understand what is going on. Now another concept that I want to discuss over here is called method hiding, or just as I talked about, this is called the sometimes we see sometimes we see the data hiding, and sometimes we do the method hiding, right? So I'll tell you the method hiding. I just by mistake closed my file. Okay. So you see here method hiding. We hide parent methods sometimes by redefining the same method in the child class. Access the parent method by using the base. So again, we sometimes we do, and this is a very interesting concept, because those who are familiar with maybe at some places, some other languages, it might be a different scenario. But here what we do is that if I define a method, for example, if I redefine a method in a child class, for example, we have got some, for example, let's talk about this get age is defined over here, or maybe let's talk about this one, get user info is being defined over here. And now I define this get user info again. I am right now not talking about method overloading, method overriding, but let's see what happens. Public void get user info, and again it is also since it was accepting location, so I won't be doing that. Let's define another method. Let's define another method and play with that one. So public void and print method, just a print method which is doing nothing, and it is just showing us some printing dot etc. Okay, and printing in parent, that is user, right? So printing in parent. So print is one method that is defined over here in this main one, and then we can just access that. So now if I redefine this method over here in my child class, so if I come here, I say public void print, right? So I'm defining this print method again. And now if I do something like that, for example, just take out this one, Control C, and now printing in not parent, in the child. And what is the child? Child is our superclass, right? Superclass. Now let's see very interesting thing. And now I am just not creating this object, rather I'll create the object for that one particularly, the superclass. So let's create a super object, obj super object equal to new super, right? So now this super object I'm creating for this super class only, right? And it has got a print method. So let's call this print method sup obj dot print, right? So I've called this print method. Let's run this program and see what is happening. Now, if you see here, first of all, of course, because it's a child class, so parent class constructor is running. The user class constructor is running, parent constructor, child class constructor is running, derived class 1, and printing in child. So if you see here that when I am calling this super.obj, it is printing in child. Interesting. Interesting. It should be the other way around because it's a bit different scenario over here. Let me just see what example I've used over here. Oh, this is the method of accessing. Okay, let's see if it works as per our requirement. It says that printing in child, the super class, it's printing in super. That's good. So we've got a print method over here, and if you see here, okay, yes, right. So this is doing the default behavior. Now see here. So when I have defined this print method over here, and I have redefined this print method over here, it first of all gives us a particular error. Error means a squiggly green error, which is not typically error, but it's sort of a, it's telling us something. What is that? It says that super.print hides inherited member user.print. So if you are using this super.print, it will hide the user.print. Use the new keyword if hiding was intended. If you are typical, so basically what it's doing, this print method is hiding our main classes method, right? So printing in parent is basically not coming over here. Rather, what is happening is, of course, it is basically doing what? So it says that whenever you are using this super.print will do what? It will do the hiding of that one. So what you do is that rather than calling this function directly, you use the new keyword if hiding was invented. If you want to really hide that function from here, you have to define a new keyword. So if you see here, let me just show you. What we do is that we will just define a new keyword with this public. So just define that new keyword and see what it does now. New void print. Now that error has gone. And now if you run that one, right, printing in child. So the only thing that confusing me is that it is not behaving accordingly. So now it's very much fine. It should now access this printing in child, this super, right? But let's remove this new, and it should now not access. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe something wrong. Maybe let me check. Printing in child, super. Just have let me have a quick look at it, because